Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again, and I'm excited to get to some of the questions. Next is a question from Rob Gray, who I get to talk to frequently, and Rob has been inviting me into his circling group. It's just been wonderful, so thank you very much for that, Rob. Rob asked the question, how can art, music, dance, even sports or crafts contribute to a good life? Is there any good 4E cognitive science, especially the embodied aspect, or other writers about how these kinds of activities contribute to broader benefits in personal or social life, or on the role of aesthetics and crafting in a thriving society? So here, Rob, I want to show you a book that I've ordered. I've not yet read, but I'm about to read it. I'll just show it to you, and then I'll read out what it says. There's a book called Fans: How Watching Sports Makes Us Happier, Healthy, and More Understanding. The reason I bought the book is because I heard him in an extensive interview, and his basic thesis, which I think is just so consonant with a lot of my own work, is that what sports are basically secular religions. They basically activate all or many of the same processes and functions that are activated by religion, and therefore contribute strongly to increasing our sense of communitas, our ability to pick up on other people, our ability to connect to something beyond ourselves, to move around in a non-literal time, a metaphorical time, because the time within a sports arena is not real time. It's more like the ancient time of the continuous cosmos, in which patterns, right? And every year there's the Grey Cup and the Super Bowl, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a lot in sports that I think needs to be discussed more. There's some very good cognitive science emerging between coaching and embodied cognitive science. Some of the discussions I've had with Nick Winkelman and his work on language of coaching, and of course Rafe Kelly, all of his stuff on parkour and embodied cognition and meaning making. So there's that. About the cog sci of art, music, dance in general. Of course, there's good cog sci on how these things can contribute to the flow state, especially jazz music and sports. I think there's some on dance and related things like rock climbing, Tai Chi Chuan, martial arts. And of course, flow is conducive to optimal experience, optimal performance, enhanced well-being, enhanced meaning in life. So there's a lot that these things do contribute to a good life. I'd be interested in knowing, I haven't seen any research on whether or not certain kinds of crafts. I'm interested, for example, in whether or not origami is conducive to some important kind, because of gesture, right, and its connection with cognition, and also because of folding and making, very complex spatial navigating, and the fact that it's being done for its own sake, autopoetically and not telically, not for some external goal. I see if that makes any significant contribution. And of course, you should know there's lots of evidence that things like music create what's called cognitive reserve. They enhance your overall cognitive performance and give you resistance to dementia and Alzheimer's, and things like that. So I think Aristotle's right. Well, Plato would say this too. Plato would argue this also in the Republic, both Plato and Aristotle. This goes towards something that Rafe Kelly is really talking a lot about that's very good, which is reintegrating the gymnasium with the academy. So each informs the other in a mutually affording fashion. But Plato and Aristotle and the Stoics would argue that a good life is one that contains art and music, dance, sports, perhaps crafts. So there, I hope that's helpful, Rob. It's an excellent question, as your questions always are.
Saruman believes that it is only a great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk, that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love. Why Bilbo Baggins? Perhaps it is because I'm afraid. It gives me courage.